finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
Well, we are back again with another episode of BS Free MD, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people's minds are really going to be opened up. We've done some diet and exercise episodes before. Really enjoyed talking to Corey from Redefining Strength. Today we have actually kind of an old friend of mine that I met skydiving several years ago, Rocky Shorey, who is a personal trainer and a skydiving instructor. He has a lot of really cool hobbies. He likes riding motorcycles, climbing mountains, doing a tremendous amount of exercise. And he has kind of an unusual thing that he also does, which maybe doesn't make sense initially, but he does food challenges, like the kind of stuff that make Joey Chestnut kind of wince and go, I don't know that I can do that. Some of the things I have seen Rocky consume is actually...
I'm thinking with all these macros I'm consuming right now and all this protein, I'm kind of psyched to hear his take on how I can stuff myself with cheesecake and hot dogs and still look as good as he does. So I'm ready for maybe a switch.
Yeah, I mean, Rocky's done fitness modeling. Like he absolutely practices what he preaches when it comes to fitness. And if you've seen any of his Instagram posts, you'll know that that's 100% the truth. So welcome, Rocky. Thank you for joining us on BS Free MD.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm not quite on Joey Chestnut's level, by the way. He would put me to shame.
Yeah. But would you want to be, I guess, is the other
who's
question.
Joey Chestnut for those people that don't know, like me
Our
audience?
He's the world king of professional eating. He's the guy that won all
he's the reigning hot dog eating champion, which is the World Cup or Super Bowl of eating. He's pretty much wins every year.
So with regards to that, the Super Bowl of eating, does it always have to be the hot dogs?
Well, the hot dogs is, I guess, the pinnacle, because I think that was one of the first eating challenges that they televise it on ESPN. It's a big deal. It's every 4th of July they have it's called the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and I think it started like 1910 or something. So it's like the most coveted.
Yeah, May cannot watch it.
There's a whole world of eating challenges you don't know about, May.
No, I think
I study up on this stuff. I have heroes in that area.
That's funny. Yeah, I've watched that a couple times. I know I've seen it on TV, and I almost throwing up along
it's
with
not for
some
the faint of heart.
My God.
Okay, so let's run through some of the things that you've done. Let's start with the world of eating, because I'm quite familiar with what you've done, and at least to a certain degree, with tons of climbing, snowboard descents. What did you just finished your 24th or 26th summit of Mount Hood? Is that correct?
26th, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And
well, that's 26 times better than us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, it's infinity times better than us. So, which is really kind of an amazing feat in itself. The Pacific Northwest, the weather changes rapidly and can be kind of an intense situation. So tell us and our listeners what kind of eating challenges you have done. Like, I know that you've done like the burger, like there's that, what is it?
I've done burgers, ice cream, hot dogs, breakfast, cake, donuts, pizza, and some random ones like in Hawaii I did one called like a big kahuna platter that was basically like a luau on a big plate.
Okay, so
how many burgers? And these are not like the little dinky cheeseburger from McDonald's. These are like
Yeah.
real burgers.
I mean, there's different burger challenge. Sometimes they'll just be like 1 6-pound burger, or sometimes there'll be several different quarter pounder burgers and stuff like that.
So how did you get started? Like, what was the first food challenge you did? And like, why? Was it a dare or what?
It was that. So there's a place in Portland called Sailors, and there's a 72-ounce steak there. And everyone was telling me, like, oh, you got to eat this. You could do it. And then, so that was the first one I tried. And I actually failed on that one. That was a big learning experience for me. A lot of these challenges, it's not that I can't eat the amount of food. It's, can I eat it in the time that I am given to eat that? And it was an hour time limit, which I thought was like, oh, this is plenty of time. So I'm just like eating slowly, talking to my friends. And before I knew it, like 40 minutes had passed up. And I was like, oh man, I still have over half this steak to eat. I just didn't realize how fast time flew by when I was eating. And then I was trying to shove food down my throat very fast, and I was off pace. Like if a runner was to sprint at a certain point and just like gas himself out, it can happen with eating if you don't pace yourself well through the time allowed. And so
72 ounces, what is that, like 5.5 pounds of steak, something like that? 5 pounds of steak?
4.5. And then it was also, you got to eat all the sides, so baked potato, salad, ice cream. I mean, it came.
Oh, it wasn't just the steak then.
It wasn't just the steak and the fries that came with it were the only thing in the hour time limit. But the other stuff you had to eat as well, but they were served to you before you even ate the steak.
Wow.
Okay. So how many calories was that?
I don't count calories on food challenges. Those are freebie days for me.
Yeah,
those are cheat days. That's what we call cheat days. Total cheat days.
Well, you think of that, 4.5 pounds of beef. I mean, what is that, like 400?
That is my
grams
whole
of protein
week's worth of calories right there.
Yeah,
it's like a snake.
People.
So how many donuts? What's your record for donuts?
Donuts, like, I mean, I've yet to test my limit on how many donuts. I could probably eat over 20 donuts. The most I've done for a challenge was, I think, 13 donuts. And these weren't like normal Safeway donuts or whatever. These were like, this was for a fundraising thing I did in Hawaii at like this specialty donut place. It's actually on my Instagram. If you see, I recorded the whole thing. So if people want to see it, they can watch the whole thing go down. But these were like basically small cakes that I was eating. They were about, probably one donut would have been equal to like 2 normal sized donuts.
Yeah, because sometimes
they were
donuts,
really good.
You could. It's just like kidding. It's amazing how many you can put away because they're pretty compressible. But you're right, if they're cake-like, that's totally different.
This is I had a sugar high that day. It was a lot of sugar.
Oh,
you have to go surfing for like 8 hours after.
So do you now, when you do these, do you do them for like the enter for just for the fun or the money contest?
I genuinely, if you can ask all my friends, I genuinely love food. Like, it's kind of maybe borderline obsessive that I love food. So, and I love challenging myself. So I guess combining those two of the love of food and finding out what my limits are on how far I can take it is like kind of why I do them. And you can win free stuff, and a free meal is always nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I'm assuming that a lot of these places like the steak challenge and things like that don't make you pay if you get it.
No.
Eat it all right.
A lot of times, almost every time you will get it for free. Picture on the wall, a t-shirt, sometimes money. or gift cards or something like that.
So
Free
how do you
stuff is always nice.
No, free stuff is always great.
Yeah.
So what is the balance? Because, like we were talking before we started recording, I've seen tons and tons of patients, and everybody wants to lose weight, and it's like, well, I can't exercise, therefore I can't lose weight. And I'm like, well, really, it's about diet. Okay. Then we see a guy like you who's super fit, who's super active, who trains people professionally, understands the ins and outs of fitness, but can, go eat 26 donuts and 72 ounces of steak in a single sitting. And people are like, how does that work?
Yeah, but he doesn't do it every day. That's the
I get it. Yeah, but I'm thinking with those levels of caloric intake and protein or whatever, you'd have to be a python, like where you eat, a white-tailed deer and then you don't eat for 2 months.
Yeah, so that's where my brain was going, is like, tell us how you prepare for these, first of all, because obviously it's not like you would have been eating really heavy meals the day before. I mean, I'm guessing. I have no clue how you prepare to do that.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what the challenge is. There are some that I consider easy challenges where, I mean, that's just a normal dinner for me, and that's not going to be hard for me to eat at all. And I'll eat before I do a challenge. And then there'll be some serious ones where I question myself, can I even eat this? And those ones where I know I'm going to be pushed to my limits, I will prep for. I will basically do like an intermittent fast. And there's this thing called water stretching. It's very uncomfortable to do, where you just try to chug as much water as possible to rapidly expand your stomach and stretch your stomach without, having food to digest. And so I will sometimes do that, although I prefer not to. I'd rather just see if I can eat
Just
it.
go hardcore.
Yeah, that is actually something I learned from professional eaters that do prepare for eating challenges is that. But the couple times I've done it, I don't prefer to do it, and it's just like I enjoy food, and I don't want to make it disgusting for me. And I don't want to do anything that would just be like, I'm not going to enjoy this. I'm not going to have fun with this. So I want to still enjoy it while challenging myself. So most of the times I will just usually not eat. And then I will try to do a pretty hard workout, or if I go hiking or something, and just basically get myself famished where I'm starving when I am done, and I'm like, give me everything in sight to eat. And that's how I prepare for those bigger challenges.
And now I'm going to ask this question because I'm a doc, and also just the weird side of me is that do you make yourself throw up afterwards, even if you pass the food challenge? No, nothing crazy like that.
Not. On times where I feel to the point where it's nothing's gonna go down. If I take another bite, it is gonna come back up. I throw the towel in. I'm done. I'm very squeamish, so I don't like puking or doing anything like that. So I'm just like, if I start to feel sick and like, okay, I know that if I take another bite, this is not going to go well. I'm throwing the towel in. And that's happened a handful of times too, where I'm just like, okay, this challenge got the better of me.
Yeah,
well,
no kidding.
How do you know your limits unless you
push them right to push yourself right to the top of your esophagus?
Yeah.
That's
it reaches that point for sure.
Does it mess up your like GI system at all for a couple days after? Like, do you find that you have trouble like with any like GI issues, bloating, diarrhea, anything like that? Nope. Huh.
No.
Okay.
I feel lethargic and I need to take a nap. And after a good long nap, I'm pretty much good to go again. Like I feel perfectly fine and normal. And I just gotta wait for things to digest, because it
Right.
takes a while, and you just feel exhausted and just like I your body needs to rest. There's a lot of hard digestion going on.
Yeah.
You have a lot of was it thermic effect, as our
Oh
trainer
yeah,
says.
yeah. You will heat
You
up very
you are
fast.
burning a lot of calories just
Yeah,
digesting all that food.
yeah.
Crazy.
So do you like take fast for the next 2 days or anything like that after, or like if you've eaten 7 pounds of nachos and
Yeah, I mean, if on those challenges that like I'm just pushed myself to the limits, it'll be a long time before I eat again or feel the need to eat again. And then once I feel the need to, I'll start eating again. But at no point am I on a schedule where it's like, oh, it's 3:00, I gotta have my protein shake and whatever. It's like my body will let me know when I'm ready to eat again. And sometimes I'll wake up the next morning and still be full because I'm like, that's still digesting in my stomach.
Wow.
I need
So
to, yeah.
So on the normal days outside of the food challenge, like time of your life, is that the same mentality you have with eating? Tell us a little bit about that, because you're obviously, I mean, no one can see you. This is audio, but you don't look like a giant foodie, a guy who, you hear this and you think food challenge person, someone who loves food, eats whatever, doesn't count the calories in the food challenge. You're a very fit, like extremely fit, muscular, healthy person. So what do you do for your normal dietary intake? Tell us a little bit
So
about that.
I do manage my calories and macros on a normal basis. Have you guys heard of flexible dieting?
Not that term. We know about macros. I'm like, we both have been on a plan.
Okay.
Tim's done with our trainer, but I'm on week like 12, counting macros, and they're cycling me. Like last week, I was on 50 protein, 30 carb, 20, and so I don't know what a flexible plan is. So let's talk
So
about that.
flexible dieting is basically, managing your macros and calories, and depending on what your goals are, what your activity is that day, those can change, but you're basically setting your guidelines and trying to hit those each day. And that can come from whatever food source. So it's flexible as in there are no foods counted out. It's not like you can't have dairy, you can't have gluten bread. It's like nothing is off the list. It is just, if you're going to eat this, it's going to take this much of your budget of your carbohydrates, fats, protein, and then you just try to stay within those guidelines. And I'm not very strict because, if I had to, like, I don't know, get ready for some sort of event, if I was doing like fitness modeling or something, then obviously I would be very strict, but I'm just trying to be healthy and enjoy life. So I don't need to be strict on that. You just need to be in a ballpark. And so that's how I go about my daily like nutrition intake is managing my calories and my macros. And usually I'm pretty good about like, eating very healthy stuff, but if some friend invites me out to lunch and we're going to go to Red Robin or who knows, and then I eat something that's off something I've already planned, I'm okay with that. I don't freak out because I'm like, okay, now I just readjust what I'm eating for the rest of the day. So I can do what I want, eat the foods I want, enjoy life, and not freak out about it.
Well, that sounds really balanced and healthy, and that's actually kind of what we're doing in our trainer. The same thing. It's like, here's the macros you have to meet. If you want to eat 10 pounds of lettuce and then a whole bunch of ice cream and then chug a bunch of whey protein or whatever, figure it out. And I know Weight Watchers has been like that because we used to counsel patients about healthy eating, and they used to say, I don't think any food was off limits as long as they have different.
Yeah, but they don't do it with macros.
No,
they
they
do
don't.
it just with calories.
Yeah,
Points,
they don't.
Yeah,
and definitely for fitness, like if you're trying to, grow muscle, stay lean, macros matter, right? If I'm eating, a couple of saltine crackers and that's all I eat, but I stay within my points, I get no protein in that. And it's like, oh, I stayed within my points. And you can lose weight. But when most people say lose weight, what they really want to do is lose fat and keep their lean mass. So it's kind of really important to know your macros when you're trying to balance out lean mass and losing body fat. Where most people are like, I just want to lose weight. And it's like, I know you say that you want to lose weight, but what you really want to do is lose body fat. And so you have to, so really knowing your macros is important for those goals as far as like building muscle, losing body fat. So that's where some of those systems that use just like point systems, you can eat whatever you want, but they only assign a point value to it or whatever. It's like they're not taking into consideration individuals that are training for athletics or those types of endeavors.
Yeah. Speaking of the athletics, do you change your macro ratios based on what activity you're going to do? So, for instance,
that is always a rotating scale for me. On if it's going to be I'm climbing Mount Hood, my calories and macros change quite a bit from my normal day, like just work day activity. Anything that's going to require a huge amount of energy from your normal days is definitely gonna change.
So would you? I mean, you'd obviously go more carbs than normal.
Carbs increase, protein, all of those increase. But yeah, it would be usually for me, and obviously this is going to vary from individual to individual. For me and my goals, I stick with about a 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fat intake. And then high activity days, that will be like more of like 70% carbs. That would increase, like lower my protein and fat. Right. I just usually keep around the same, around 20%.
But people need to understand what a high activity day is for you, because for a lot of people, a high activity day is they walk to the end of their driveway and they
right, yeah.
And climbing Mount Hood for a very experienced climber is still 5 hours, 6 hours.
Yeah, it takes, I would say, for me, it takes like average, depending on which route I'm taking and stuff, but 4 to 6 hours to reach the summit.
Yeah, and that's a high level athlete experience. So you're not, you're also not just stopping and figuring stuff out. You've done it before. And I mean, because I remember when I talked to one of our other friends about this, and he's like, yeah, if you've never done it, it's going to be 7.5 or 8 hours to get you up there, to do it safely, to make sure that everything's good. And we take our time and you get enough rest and kind of drag your rear up there. And so you sit there and you go, I mean, it would be significantly more caloric output than a marathon for most people, because you're actually climbing and you're doing it longer.
Right. Yeah, it is very, and at altitude too. So you're burning more calories at those higher altitudes also. It's very, it's a reality check for most people that have never climbed before, of like how intensive it can be, or physically demanding it would ask of someone to. Because it's not a hike. It's not.
Yeah, I was just about to say
Noma Falls, or what most people are like. I've done a hike. I'm ready to climb a mountain. I was like, there's different types of climbs we're talking about here.
Yeah, I
Well,
jogged around the block. I'm ready to run a
Yeah.
marathon.
yeah, I mean, I've done a little tiny bit of mountaineering, a million years ago, 30 some years ago in the Canadian Rockies. And it's like, when you're walking across a snowfield and everyone's roped together for a reason, because one of the people might just magically disappear into a
Yeah.
crevasse that you can't see. And then, you're all, and then, you're bagging some cliffs whilst you're going from point A to point B. So it really becomes, it's unbelievable how taxing it is. Plus, you're carrying a bunch of stuff. It's not like you're not
Yeah.
carrying.
And if you're hiking through snow, the labor intensive of the slow movement of trudging, it's not smooth walking. It's like post holing where it's very exhaustive. If especially if it's deep snow, you're spending so much energy not moving very far at all.
Right.
I think back to my childhood days, just climbing through the snow at home, trying to build an igloo, and how exhausting that was. Forget climbing a mountain doing it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're also doing it in a snowsuit that was basically like they borrowed from the Apollo 10 mission. So,
oh my goodness.
So crazy.
So I was going to ask if you do. So is your baseline is usually a 40-40-20 macro diet, sort of day to day. And then you adjust that based on activities. So do you plan out macros for anybody else and diet plans?
I do,
well?
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so just tell us what you recommend, or is it very individual? I mean, I know it
It's
depends
individual.
on the goals.
What I do is everyone basically is trying to find out where their basal metabolic rate is. And the way that for me, how I establish that for someone is like, don't change anything about how you eat, because most people will maintain weight for a while. It's most people that get out of shape. It's a slow process, right? And their metabolism, it's not, unless they do something very drastic and rapid, which I never recommend to do anything drastic or rapid. It always has a slingshot effect back the other way, because most people are like, oh, I'm going to do this diet. It sounds really great. And they make a bunch of changes that aren't realistic or sustainable. They do it for as long as they can do it. And when they go back to their normal ways, it just goes back the other way. And you're like, oh, you look great for a month. And then what happened here? And they just get back to their old. So it's like, if you can't do anything sustainable, it's not going to work. And slow, gradual changes is the way to do it. So just establishing how someone would eat normally for a week, and I just have them track it and look at the data at the end of it. Like, now I can see what your average caloric intake is, what your average carbohydrate and fat and protein intake is. And then that gives me some data I can work with and see, like, okay, you're consuming like 80% carbs every day and you're around 2,000 calories or whatever. And this are some adjustments we can start making to turn this around to get to the goals that you want to do. But then seeing how they eat every day, and that's where they're kind of maintaining their weight and lean mass, then I can kind of start to help guide them in the direction that would start to change them in their physical goals that they're looking for.
So, I think the common thing that a lot of, that we know, but a lot of people I think are starting to realize is that a lot of this, the diet and exercise portion, really weighs on the diet portion, the macros, the most instead of exercise. Because we've counseled people forever and we're no experts other than our stupid medical training on this, which was terrible, and then our own personal knowledge just from our hobbies and our interests, that pretty much most of it is diet. Like 80% of I always say you are what you eat, and so it's really hard to outrun a diet. I would tell people, if you drink a can of soda, that's 150 calories. When I was running, I said it would take me 3 miles of running just to burn off a Coke. So that's in order to burn off 3,500 calories, which is a pound, think of all that exercise you have to do. I mean, it's insane. So the biggest part of what you do is paying attention, you're right, tracking the numbers and changing what you're eating and putting in your body.
Yeah.
Of course, exercise then.
Exercise is huge. Don't ever underestimate the power of exercise. And for me, I don't like restrictive. I don't like to look at things as restrictive. I like to look at things as this is going to expand and open your world up, right? So the more you exercise, that opens up the level of activities and things you get to do. You know, if I ask someone, hey, do you want to climb Mount Hood next week? Most people say, give me a year to get ready for it. If you keep yourself in shape and your stuff, there's friends that will be like, yeah, let's go up next Tuesday. And they just keep themselves in a healthy world where they train often and their exercises have allowed them to do whatever they want when they want because they're not restricted by their unhealthy lifestyle. Their healthy lifestyle has expanded their ability to do all the activities they want to do. So they're ready for that. So, and they're just in healthy shape. They increase their metabolism. And that's one thing I really look to do is maximize your metabolism. And too many people want to suppress their metabolism by dieting hard. And then that starts to really tank your metabolism. And then you live a lifestyle of jumping on every diet you can. And every time you talk to them, I'm on this diet, I'm on this diet. It's like, at what point do you stop dieting and actually live your life and just kind of enjoy it? So if you can really build your metabolism up, you're not worried about dieting anymore. You have built this furnace that works hard for you and does most of the work for you, but you also have to enjoy an active lifestyle.
Right.
No, and
we would totally agree with that. And I think what I was asking, maybe I said in the wrong way, because we've both been.
Well, people think they're going to exercise their way to weight loss when they're 75 pounds overweight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not. Sorry.
I guess what I meant was they want to think, or they think they join the gym and they're doing all this activity, but they don't really take a hard look at their diet and track what they're doing and see that 80% of their diet is carbs.
Yeah.
Even though,
if they don't, too many people don't estimate correctly how they're eating and are doing guesswork. So let's try to take out the guesswork. If you get some actual numbers and data, and you don't have to do this your whole life, but you got to start somewhere. Like if you're a doctor, you got to know some hard facts before you're going to start recommending things to do. Because if they're just saying, well, I think it's this and this, you're like, well, I can kind of guess that maybe this is the reason it's causing a problem. But unless we can look at some things and really get some numbers and stuff, then you can really get a better idea of what the actual problem is or where they've kind of steered wrong. So being able to get that data is really helpful. And then when you start to educate yourself, and now if I'm tracking this stuff down, because, I tracked for a long time where you just start to educate, and I can look at a dish and really, I'm not going to be accurate, but to get a good ballpark of like what the calories and macros are going to be on something that I'm eating, because I've just jotted these foods down and started to recommend or know their calories and their macros that I can look at, like an egg or something, and just automatically know what the calories and proteins and fat and matter are going to be.
Right. No, to your point about data, we know that as docs, but man, for at least I'm speaking for myself here, Tim can chime in later, but we've always been really active. We've done so many sports and things, and I'm on the end of the spectrum that has trouble gaining weight and maintaining muscle mass, and I always lose weight when I'm stressed and not working out as much because I'm not maintaining my muscle mass. And now that I'm like in my mid 50s, and I'm like, what the heck? I've been doing this program, I'm lifting these weights. I don't know. I eat healthy. I like meat and protein. I eat tons of it compared to all my other female friends, yada, yada. My hormones are balanced. What's the deal? So now that I'm actually started tracking and just kept track the first 2 weeks, I was blown away. You think you know, but you don't until you really have the data. And so I wasn't even barely touching 25% protein in my diet, and way more carbs than I thought, and way under eating my caloric intake that I needed, because I just kind of go by how my body feels. And I'm one of these people who just eats when they're hungry, quits when I'm not. But it was a really eye-opening lesson for me. I'm like, well, no wonder I'm struggling. Here's the data. And I'm
Yeah.
clearly,
I
so
mean, and
whether,
that's most people when I
yeah,
have clients track that down and they show me. I think the normal American diet is a very high carb, low protein intake
oh
diet.
yeah.
That's almost
Plus,
every time I see it.
and whether you're trying to gain or lose, or it doesn't matter what your goals are, and you can be educated and still think you know a lot until you really track it. Sometimes you're going to be surprised. I mean, I was so surprised at what I was doing.
Well, but here's the thing. Okay. Everyone wants the secret.
Yeah.
Or everyone, it's a mystery. It's a secret.
Yes.
Secret weight loss. Just
Yeah.
take night shred and you'll be shredded at night and all this kind of crap. And you go, and the fact of the secret is there's no secret. And that's, people look at your food challenges and they assume their own life plus eating a 4.5 pound piece of steak, when that's not the case. If they looked at your life, it all makes sense. You understand macros. You educate yourself for years by tracking them. You exercise voraciously. You lift tons of heavy things and climb and boulder and do all of these, exercises that build lean body mass, which then turns you into a massive calorie furnace. Like all of these things, there isn't a mystery. And I guess the biggest mystery to me is when something's not working, you have to do something else. But people are like, well, it must just be my metabolism. It must just be I have another medical problem and I can't. And I'm like, well, no, you're just doing the wrong things and you've learned to do the wrong things for a really long time. I mean, that's 99.9%.
Too many people get comfortable and they think a small change means a big change in their life. Oh, if I just do this, then my whole physique's going to change into this. But it's realized like that's going to take time, and then you're going to build off those changes. Not one little change. There's no secret. It's a lifestyle. Unless you build a healthy lifestyle, there's not one little thing. If I take this, acai berry or whatever, now I'm going to look like I'm drinking fit tea now. In 2 months, I'm going to look like this model here. And it's just like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen unless you make a series of changes. And that basically looks like a different lifestyle than the one you were previously living. But that takes time. That's why it's like, you don't want to do it drastic, but find that one thing. Okay, like I like running now. Let me start picking up running, and then you'll hit a plateau. Now you got to add and make changes in diet and stuff. There's a lot of factors that change into someone making a pretty drastic change. But anyone that you see is healthy and stays healthy, it's because if you look at their lifestyle, they're just living a healthy lifestyle. They're not doing, anyone that knows me is like, okay, he goes out and he's always active, doesn't party or drink on the weekends. He's not playing poker and that's not what I do. That's not my lifestyle. It's not what I find interesting. So it's not, I'm not very sedentary. I don't have a desk job. So it's like, I have all these factors that allow for me to stay healthy and enjoy. So it keeps me going, keeps me motivated to keep up that lifestyle and do the things I love to do. But a lot of people are just like, well, if I start drinking this protein drink, am I going to see this happen? And it's like, it's a start,
Yeah,
a difference,
right.
but not just that is going to make the change, but you're going to build and start making a series of changes.
Right.
No, and I love that. I love the whole series of changes. There's a really interesting book called The Cure for Everything by Timothy Caulfield. I think it came out like 15 years or so ago, and he basically looked at evidence for any kind of popular health intervention. And the one thing that he looked into was, which was awesome, because he was actually a fairly successful middle distance athlete, middle distance runner in college. So he had understood training and whatnot. And he said, how do Hollywood stars look like they look, or how do they get ready for movies? Because, you know, there's movies where Russell Crowe has to have a six pack and be the gladiator. And then there's a movie where he's kind of pudgy because he's a guy that works at a desk. And so he went and got trained by the most famous Hollywood trainer. And he said, basically, they try to kill these people is essentially what it came down to. He said they're working out 4 to 5 hours a day. Every single thing is tracked, and they are one breadstick north of starvation. He said it is brutality that most people would not go through. But when you're getting paid $20 million for a show,
right?
Maybe a little torture.
It's the motivation. Motivation is a factor too. And it's one reason you see a lot of athletes, when their career is done, they blow up into balloons. It's like, you're like, oh, what happened to them? They used to be so fit. Or it's like, well, look, their job used to be playing this sport 4 hours a day. And then the off season, they had to train to get ready, and they had these trainers, and it was required of them. And when that ended, no one's telling them to train anymore. And if they don't have a motivation to keep on, most of them are like, I'm glad no one's telling me I have to go practice for 5 hours today. I just want to. But then they still feel like they can eat like
No
they
kidding.
were
I
athletes.
forgot.
That part didn't change.
yeah,
Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's been one thing Tim and I've always noticed, and has been I won't say pet peeve, but just a mystery to us. And we see a lot of people who, you know, our kids are grown, but even we know friends that are our age, or people that had kids our kids' age, who are amazing athletes in high school, super fit, you know, 3-sport athletes, or they go on to college in their D1 level, do really well, and then that's all over, and then they pack it in and become overweight, and they're not, I mean, they don't have any real fitness activity in their life. And so we talk about this and say, like, what are we doing wrong, especially with kids in high school, and, you know, they're playing all these sports and they're active, and you're trying to teach them healthy lifestyle and fitness and activity for a lifetime, not just for a season, which is school or college, and then just have people just quit. Now, I think it's a little different, right? If you're right, if you're the professional athlete and you're being paid and that's your job and that's all you do, and you kind of just, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on, how do we, what do we do better?
Is you have to find that reason for yourself. If it's force fed down your throat, there will often be quite the rejection when it is no longer force fed down your throat. But if you find that reason within yourself, like, oh, I discovered this and it makes me feel happy, that's the key. That's the motivation that gets you going. But if you're like doing this because, oh, this is going to get me my D1 scholarship, I'm doing this so I can get, and my parents are pushing me to do this, when that ends, you're going to be like, I never had fun doing that. There was not 1 minute I enjoyed doing that. I was doing it because it gave me some notoriety. I was popular in high school because I did it. And then my parents wanted me to do it. And then that all ends. And then you're just like, well, I never really enjoyed doing that. It wasn't ever fun because you just have memories of just getting pushed, and it took the fun out of it. So if you discover that thing that, you know, oh, like, me and my friends like to go rock climbing together or cycling together, or we're in this hiking or running club, and that's really fun for me to hang out with them and do that. That's really helpful for a lot of people, is like giving them that fulfillment within themselves that they discovered. That's why I always tell people, go try different sports and activities. Find that reason to get out of the house, because if you don't find that, it's going to be a struggle. But if you can find that reason that gives you happiness and you enjoy doing it, you're starting to be on the right track.
Yeah.
No, I love that because that's how we always encouraged our kids is to do sports that they could do for a lifetime that they would enjoy.
Because they liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
they liked it.
You
So
don't
our
have
son,
to ask. You don't have to ask them to do it. They're going to
right.
ask you, "Can I go out and play football with my friends, or can I go out and I want to
Right.
ride the bike out around the neighborhood?" You're like, "Oh, go have fun. Go be active. Go do your thing." And
You know,
they
like
come back with a smile on their face.
our son trained hard. He did cross country. He's not built for cross country. He was not fast by any means. But, he's run a marathon. He's getting into triathlons now because it became a lifestyle. It's the same with golf. He liked golf. It's good for his head. It's good to teach patience. And well, he got to learn a sport at school, and now he can do it for the rest of it. Like, for me, that seems like the entire point, where for so many people, it's like, well, I got to get the scholarship, or I got to get to this, or I got to get to that. When you actually, if you look at the odds, for most people, the chance to get a scholarship is academic, because it's far easier to get an academic scholarship than an athletic one, like far easier. And, it's interesting what you said to try the other sports, because I've done tons of different activities, and I've done some speaking, and I talk about getting an excuse. So you either make an excuse to not be active, or you get an excuse to be fit. And last week I started water skiing again, and it had been over, since last season. And I had actually got a trainer, had been focused on lifting more, actually focused on diet very heavily, which I'd never done in my entire life. And I went to put my vest on, and it actually fit. Like, it was amazing. Okay. And then I go skiing, and I'm like, I'm not out of breath at all. Like, normally I almost need like resuscitation, because I was stronger, and I was fitter. And I'm like, okay, I remember now. I kind of hit my oh shit weight a while ago, and I'm like, okay, this is going to end. But it's totally what keeps me going, which is I love running. Even if my knees hurt, I love it. I never want to stop. So I got to do whatever it takes to do that.
Even with the walker, he'll be running.
I love water skiing. I love downhill. I love all these things. So now the older I get, now I'm even more motivated, because there's way less tread on the tire. So you got to be really careful how you train that, so that everything stays and works. Because I had a couple injuries, and it's amazing. I just sit there, and you just go, screw it. It's not worth it, because it's too painful. And my gosh, does that catch up and bite you in the rear in a big fat hurry?
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely more challenging. You get older but you still you gotta keep your body is definitely gonna decay more if you don't work on it. So even though it's harder to wake up and you're in more pain after a day of doing any activity, the key to keeping yourself healthy is still doing that. I always tell people, it's like recovery becomes just as important. Like, you're not young anymore. You got to focus more on recovery a little bit more. Don't push yourself too hard. But if you do that, you can still way into your longer years I have clients what's funny, I always tell this, like, I'm 40, and then a lot of the people I go climbing with are older than me. They're in their 50s, and I hang out with them because they are in better shape than a lot of my friends that are my age, that I couldn't ask to do that because they're not in that good of shape. And that's why I was like, I go climbing with a lot of friends that are in their 50s, because they love climbing too, and they've kept themselves in shape. And they're in that great of shape that I can do that activity with them, which gives me hope. Where before, when I was young, I thought when you're in 50, you were a grandpa on your porch eating butterscotch candy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, man, 50s, you can still like do some pretty amazing things and go out, and I think you're still pretty young at that age if you can just take care of yourself and find those activities that keep you going. Because I was like, and so many friends that I grew up with and were athletes, I can't even ask because they're not. They've let
Yeah.
they've let that lifestyle go, and it's caught up to them where it's just like it's not much you could ask them to do that would be anything really daunting to take on.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I have friends I water ski with that are in their 70s, and they absolutely kick my ass, like from one end of the lake to the other. I
That's
mean,
incredible.
they've done it a lot more than I have, is part
Yeah.
of it, but they just never quit. Is really
But
the key.
yeah, and they're motivated to keep doing
Mhm.
it, and they enjoy doing it, and
Yeah.
you can see the result of that. The result of that is like, man, this 7-year-old's a phenomenal water skier, and he
Yeah.
loves to do it.
Yeah, you just got to keep going. I mean, that's my attitude as well. Like I've had
Well,
a ton of
yes.
injuries and a lot of surgeries, orthopedic injuries, and including my hip replacement, which took me out of running, and a lot of 7 or 8 knee surgeries. And my thing is, there's a workaround. There's always something you can do. There's always something
Yeah,
else you can
and that's why
do.
it's nice to try different things because you maybe haven't stumbled on that activity that really is gonna,
Right.
light your fire that you're like, oh my God, I really like. I look at my lifestyle now and the things I've done. Growing up, that wasn't even. I had no one active in my family. I played no sports in high school. I was zero activity in my life, and to think of what I'm doing now wasn't even a thought in my head. And it wasn't until friends took me and introduced me that I was like, whoa, this is pretty amazing. Like, this is really cool. And then I started to discover that. But, if I didn't have that, I guarantee I would be 300 pounds and sitting.
With those food
Yeah,
challenges and the
because
food
I
you
don't think
love,
my eating habits would have changed. So it
yeah.
kind of worked out that the eating habits fueled my athletic endeavors.
But to your point, you've got to, no matter, not even just diet and exercise, but in life, got to surround yourself around like-minded or people that you want to become, and
Right.
and if you're with those people, you will adopt those habits. I mean, it's the
Yes.
same with everything, whether it's attitude, the people you hang around with, the attitudes, or career-wise, or any aspirations. If you want that, you got to be around those kind of people, because
Yeah,
it
that is
keeps you
huge and
motivated and
important. Yeah.
inspiration. Yeah.
Well, it's what Warren Buffett says. He said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the guy that's
say-
been the single most successful investor in the history of investing.
Yeah.
And he's still like, no, I'm if I'm not learning every day from other people smarter than me, then I'm not doing my job.
So
Yeah.
obviously, same for fitness and health and healthy lifestyle. Surround yourself with those people that push and motivate you to be better.
Right.
I mean, it's great.
Absolutely.
So do you have before we wrap up, this is fun. Do you have a favorite app that you like to use for tracking macros and
My fitness
things like that?
for me,
Yes. Yeah.
is the easiest, and it has probably the largest database of food. I mean, you can literally put anything in there and a list will come up, and it's super easy. They even have a scanner, anything with a barcode. You can
Right.
just scan it and it'll pull up the macros. That's why when people tell me tracking is hard, I'm like, no. It used to be back in the day, you'd have to do a lot of research, if you're jotting it in a notebook and then having to look it up and stuff. But now with these apps,
it's so easy
really
that honestly,
easy to do.
yeah, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, that it's so easy that I can scan so many barcodes that I don't even really pay attention sometimes until the total later on in the day to the macros and calories. I'm like, well, I'm not really learning. I should be paying attention more and looking at the numbers, because it is so easy just to scan the barcodes on thing and it just piles it in there really quickly. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it's a great one.
It's the easiest one. And then there's some with paid ones and, that are a little more detailed and stuff, and those are great too. But I mean, my fitness pal is like really, really easy and it's free. So
Yeah, it's awesome. How can people find you if they want to hire you? Want to hire you for a modeling shoot? I mean, who knows?
Well, my modeling days are pretty much over because I'm old now.
Stop it. No, you're not.
Maybe when I was younger, I can play a dad role for something, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not a young college athlete anymore. Not that I was, but I could at least appear as one.
Right.
But you can just email me. My email's rockyshorey@hotmail.com. That'd be the
And
easiest
that
way
food
to
challenge on Instagram, people want to see all the stuff you
Yeah,
eat,
if you
right?
want to see any food challenges, or it's mostly a lot of active climbing stuff, but I do put my food challenges on there as well. So you can see some of those food challenges. Yeah, you can see it on my Instagram, which is at Kung Fu Flyer.
Kung Fu Flyer. Okay, and we'll link that in the show
Yeah,
notes
we'll
too.
get all that linked, and feel free to send us a couple pictures of the 6 or 7 pounds of nachos or whatever it is.
I can send you. I've done so many food challenges. There's no. I'll send you some food pictures if people want to see some of the food challenges I've done.
No, and it's cool. So it's like it's simple. If you want to eat a 72-ounce steak every once in a while or 6 pounds of nachos, just make sure that you're fit enough that you can run up the side of Mount Hood in 4.5 hours and work out 4 hours a day. Other than that, it's simple.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah, it's that simple. Well, thanks so much, Rocky. This has just been a really great time. Really enjoyed it, and nice to catch up with you again. It's been a few years since we've run into each other, and it's just been really good.
Likewise. Thank you guys for having me.
Been super fun. Now I think I'm going to go look for some food in the cupboard. I'm hungry.
Yeah. Well, that was super fun. I loved Rocky's insights.
I loved how he, I think everybody's going to love hearing his tales of gorge eating, food challenge.
Food challenges.
How he can stuff himself with food in these food challenges and still also maintain a completely, I guess, can we say it in one sentence, and maintain a healthy lifestyle, but be fit, active, and actually count macros and mostly live a really focused diet plan and still do the food challenges and fit them in.
Well,
I mean, obviously he's not doing food challenges every other day.
Right, but that's why he can do it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we see this stuff and it's like, there's a guy, I mean, and Rocky's pretty self-effacing. I mean, he if you follow him on Instagram at Kung Fu Flyer, the guy is built like a Samoan god. Okay, and that's not an exaggeration. I mean, he's incredibly fit. He did fitness modeling. He says he's too old now. Yeah, okay. If that's too old, then I'm just giving up on life. So, at any rate, the reason he can do the food challenges is because everything else is managed so perfectly great, right? And we get this idea. You see a guy. And he's like, take my V shred, and he's eating a donut, and he's got this unbelievable 6-pack and these gigantic arms. Well, guess what? He didn't get it from the stuff he's trying to sell you, and he didn't get it from eating donuts. He got it doing what every single person does, which is they actually count macros. They eat a tremendous amount of protein, and they are in calorie deficit if they want to lose weight, and they're in calorie surplus if they want to gain weight and gain muscle, and they work out like 10 times more than you can possibly imagine. Yeah. That's the reality.
That's the secret. I mean, and it's not a secret. And I think people will realize from listening to this podcast and the one we did with Corey, and I don't know, how many times do we need to hammer it home? I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's no secret. It is a lot of hard work, and counting macros, which is the food that you eat, matters. So,
well, it's cool. And the thing that actually I was the most excited about what Rocky said, which was something I'd been thinking about for a very, very long time, but was kind of we got so deep into the details as far as the diet and exercise with Corey. that we didn't get into too much of the motivational side with her. And she is tremendous at talking about, the ritual motivation side. She's really good at all of it. But what he said was, he never grew up this was not modeled for him. When he was growing up in Hawaii, he didn't grow up in a family of triathletes or mountain climbers or all this kind of stuff that he enjoys. He learned that, and then once he learned it, he was like, I have to do whatever it takes to my body so that I can maintain this lifestyle. So the key was, you have to have a reason to be fit. You have to have the lifestyle where you have to do this other part. And that's fascinating, because I just stumbled across some dumb thing on Facebook or whatever, where it was, Biggest Loser contestants that won. Okay. So these are people that, they lost 100 pounds, 120 pounds, 180 pounds in some cases. Where are they now? And virtually all of them have gained it 100% plus back. Like virtually everybody. It's about 10% that kept it off. But the fascinating thing to me was, if you look at the ones that were successful, that kept it off, they were people that got into the fitness industry, or they became like something in their life completely changed where they had to stay fit. So they became personal trainers, or they got into some outdoor activity where they had to maintain their healthy lifestyle.
Right.
The people that went back to their regular life just gained all their weight back because they went back to their regular life. That's the point. You don't just change your diet, you change your entire life.
Yeah, and the stats show that. I was listening to in our group, they had a talk on carbs and are they bad, and someone referenced the data on that, as far as people that do focused diets tend to gain 80 to 99% of their weight back and more. So it's pretty much known. So I want to know, before we wrap this up really quick, how it's going with your macro counting and your plan now that you're done the trainer sessions. I think everybody wants to know, how's it going?
Well,
any updates?
Yeah,
to share.
Yeah, well, I got a couple updates, and because it's BS free, it'll be BS free. I'm not tracking right now because I'm actually seeing what it's like to not track and whether or not I completely fail. And if I do, I'll start tracking again. And it's what Corey mentioned. She's like, yeah, you can go on and off and track and this. I still eat way more protein than I've ever eaten before in my life. So that part hasn't changed. I have a pretty good inner compass as far as how much I'm eating. And really where that is just sort of hunger. And if I want to lose weight, I just go to bed a little bit hungry. And then the key is just not doing stupid stuff, right? It's not drinking your calories. It's not.
Have you been weighing yourself to see if you're gaining anything back?
No, my weight is. I was losing about a pound a week because I had increased my running, but then I got a gigantically swollen right calf because my knees are so crappy that my calf filled with fluid from my knee, which was great. So that part has put a dent into the thing. Injuries are. I used to brag to everybody how I never got injured until I was about 51 or 52. And then it just seems like that's all I do is get injured. So that part is tough. I can do this by myself now. I know, especially if I could run, because I've done it, since I was 19 years old. The question is, if I can't run, what's going to happen? And the answer is, I don't know. We'll find out.
All right. Long pause.
Well,
maybe you would ask.
I don't know.
Me.
You should ask. You should ask me. I should ask you how I'm doing.
And I'm in week 11, I believe.
No, you're more than that, aren't you?
I don't think so. Feels like.
How are you doing? Because
111.
You're trying to gain weight.
Yeah, I'm one of the few freaks that wants to eat more calories and gain more weight. And my weight gain has been about 1.5 pounds in the last 11 weeks, but I'm starting to feel way stronger just based on the weight I'm lifting and the exercise and my push-up test, pull-up test, as well as I'm starting to see more growth in my muscle groups. So that's encouraging. And then, of course, they put me on last week. I was the first week of the 50% protein, 30-20. And that will lean you out really pretty quick. But, that was tough. But I said, I can do anything for a week. And I'm glad that was 1 week and I'm going to cycle. So we'll keep you updated. But definitely, there's swings emotionally doing this. So the progress is real, the progress is slow, and the emotional battle is a big part of it as well, not just the work physically. So, anyway, that's enough about us. Let's wrap this up. Thanks for listening. Check out our post and share it with some friends. If you want to sponsor our show, we'd love to have you. And we'll see you next week.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
But we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.